Okay, come on in. It's episode number 295. Join us as we talk to Jeremy Richards. He is a former Army, works for the local prosecutor's office, and a former pastor. It's going to be a great discussion. Oh, Matt, yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, I worked at Logan Thompson for a good while.
Yeah.
Loved working at Logan Thompson.
Yeah.
You know, Matt Coleman and Robert Thompson, two really good mentors for me.
Yeah.
Both good men and strong in the community.
Very strong.
Yeah, loved my time here, Matt. You know, of course, stepping down from school board, I was actually hoping he'd stick around for a while, but.
Was he one term or did he finish the term?
Yeah, he's one term. He's finishing this term and he's endorsed someone else and he's going to do.
I would say that is a taxing board to be on, wouldn't you say?
I would say so.
I'd say that's a lot of.
I don't think that I would want to do the school board stuff because that's, having children still in the school, our older kids have graduated, but having younger kids in the school, you don't have a higher interest in anything going on than your kids. I think you're going to hear all about everything from everybody. So, yeah.
He didn't play on the baseball team to he shouldn't have missed that question.
Absolutely.
Something like that.
Yep, absolutely. Why not my kid?
Has anybody told you look like Keith Brock?
No, but you know what I have heard? And this actually happened in court the other day, where someone was asking for an attorney, and the lady said, I want the attorney over there appointed to me, the one that looks like Russell Crowe. Right? So Judge Freiberg from the bench said, Russell Crowe. And so I stood up, I was talking, so I stood up and I said, are you not entertained? Of course, the judge was quick to remind me afterwards that, was it Russell Crowe from Gladiator or Russell Crowe from Nuremberg?
Now, is Russell Crowe the one that played in 310 to Yuma?
Oh, I don't remember that one. Russell Crowe, he's played in quite a few. Master and Commander was a good one that he played in. Obviously, Gladiator, Nuremberg, which I just saw yesterday for the first time. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it because it's a phenomenal. So he plays Hermann Goering, which, the guy had a wild story, obviously, but I did notice that in that movie versus the Gladiator, he was a little bit more beefed up and healthy. So I'm assuming that's where he was going. But so I'll take a plump Russell Crowe. I'll take that.
I think his breakout movie was 310 to Yuma. It was a really good
That
movie.
may be it. That may be it.
It was set back in the late 1800s, and Yuma was Yuma, California.
Yep.
And it was a train they was catching that leaves at 310.
You got to get out. Yeah, that's right.
I believe that was his breakout thing, I believe. But yeah, my old friend Keith Brock, you're his spitting image.
Is that right? Well,
Yeah,
somebody the other
bizarre.
day said if I would lose 100 pounds and dye my beard, that I might have a J.D. Vance look. And I was like, all right, well.
What they're missing that you look like Keith Brock, because you look more like Keith Brock than any of those.
All right. Well, I'll have to go look that up.
And you could gain 10 pounds and still look like Keith Brock. He's really
my kind of guy.
Yeah.
So, because I'm always down for gaining 10 pounds.
I saw him I saw him in town here last year, and he said, I'm thinking about getting a motorcycle and just going out west and living. I said, yeah. And sure enough, about 3 months ago, I saw him on Facebook. He was living out in Texas somewhere.
Just
bizarre.
Motorcycle and ride.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to take a break, I guess.
That'd be a free. Was you in the Army?
I was. So I was actually, believe it or not, after talking with me, believe it or not, I was actually an intelligence officer in the Army. When I tell folks that, most of the time they think I'm joking because They're like, nothing about you screams intelligence. But I was an intel officer. I was a paratrooper in the Army, and I loved my time. My entire family, we're like seventh generation military. And now my son, who's 23, is in the Navy, stationed up in Yorktown, Virginia. So he carried on the legacy. Now, my problem that I have is all of my previous family were in the Navy. I joined the Army, and now my son has fixed it by going back to the Navy. So now, come Army-Navy game, it's just the worst trash talk you can imagine. And unfortunately, we haven't done as well against the Navy.
Paratrooping, what was it like doing it the first time?
Well, my daughter one time asked me, she's like, Dad, what was it like jumping out? Did you ever jump out at night? And I said, baby, every time I jumped out was a night jump because my eyes were closed. Every time I come out of the aircraft, every time was a night jump. But I would say it was a extraordinary experience, obviously, when you're falling.
Are you falling like fast, or is it just, what?
Well, all right, so I'll tell you this. When you have the jump height, and it was static line jumps, combat jumps are static line jumps.
What does that mean?
Where you have a ripcord almost that's attached to a line. So when you jump out, it's attached to your parachute. It's going to pull it for you.
So you don't have to think, pull the chute.
No. And
what if it doesn't pull, it just leaves you dangling?
Well, there have been those issues before. Now, so if you're jumping from a jump height, which is 900 to 1,100 feet, you've got about 12 seconds or so, give or take, before you hit the ground.
900 feet, that would be the length of 9 city lots.
Yep.
That's not far.
Yeah, or 3 football fields.
3 football, that's not far.
It's not far, no sir.
So in 12 seconds, you're on the ground, even with the parachute out?
No, if your chute doesn't open 12 seconds, you're going to hit the ground. But you have 4 seconds that it takes before your parachute, if it opens or not. Now, you'll have a reserve parachute in front of you. So after 4 seconds, if you don't feel a shock from a parachute, you have to pull that ripcord on your reserve. And then it has time to deploy, theoretically. But I remember going through training, and the sergeant that was our airborne sergeant who was training us, he said, listen, fellas, if your chute does not open, do not panic, because you have the rest of your life to fix that problem.
Golly.
Yeah, but it is one of those, it happens quick and it happens fast. And if you think about it from a combat standpoint, you want to be on the ground as quick as possible. You don't want to be just dangling in a parachute.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So you want to be down as fast as possible. And I figured they thought that, well, this is the lowest altitude we can do it to make sure that you have a fighting chance if your chute doesn't open.
That would give you 8 seconds to deploy the reserve.
Yeah, well, you'd have another 4 seconds because it takes 4 seconds for a canopy to get
God, my goodness.
So at that point, the good news is
you can't wait till 5 and then pull it.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it.
Would you count 1 Mississippi, 1
Yeah,
Mississippi?
you come out, and my eyes were closed every time.
And 1 Mississippi.
Come out 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. By that time, you typically are feeling a shock.
Have you ever said, I didn't feel it, and you pulled it?
Now, I've never done it. Mine always deployed pretty well. I've been on some jumps where guys have pulled their reserves, some that were needed, and sometimes the guys got a little, nervous and they pulled it early, and then they just come down way slower than everyone because they've got 2 chutes deployed at that point.
But that didn't hurt anything?
It didn't hurt anything. We just gonna make fun of you real bad, you got to figure, what's the matter with you, man? You scared?
Well, what would be wrong with pulling both?
Well,
You'd be super safe?
I guess you may consider yourself to be super safe. However, you're going to come down a whole lot slower at that point, and the idea is to get down as fast as possible, but as safe as possible.
And they've determined that's about 12 seconds.
Yep, that height is about right. And really, honestly, airborne school to me, airborne school is all about not necessarily how the chute operates, because you don't have to worry about that. How the chute's packed and unrolled, they got people that do that. Airborne school is learning how to fall coming down that fast without breaking anything.
Even though the chute's out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So are you running?
No, you're going to come down. You're going to come down straight, and they have something that's called a PLF, parachute landing fall, where it's your feet, knees together, and you're going to kind of roll and flip over. And the whole idea is to, absorb the ground hit and let that momentum go across your body without it actually breaking anything. But me, I've never been. I'm not sure if you can tell this by looking at me, Dee, but I'm not a little guy. Never really been a little guy. So
Always been 180 or something.
yeah, 180. I appreciate you saying that. I probably hadn't seen 180 since middle school. I appreciate you saying that. But, I would come down like a meteorite. Like, the officers are typically always the first ones out of the aircraft. So obviously I'm going to be the first one on the ground. But I think based off of my size, even if I came out last, I would have probably beat everybody down. Because it's just, I just come down quick. So I would hit like a ton of bricks.
Where's your gun at that point? Strapped to your shoulder or where?
No, you would, what they typically, you would have it under your arm like this way.
Pointed down?
Yep, pointed down. And, most of the paratroopers now, they jump with like M4s, the one with the collapsible stock, like an AR-15.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more compact, not like an M16. If you go back and look at some of the historical videos of paratroopers jumping like in World War II, they would actually string it across their chest, understanding that, if I need my reserve, I'll deal with that then. But you want to hit the ground ready to fight. I mean, that's part of the issue.
I guess one thing is once you get down, you get your gun out and be ready to shoot anybody coming after your guys. It's all planned out, isn't it?
Yep, and it happens quick. And some of the things that, you hit the ground and you got your parachute behind you. If it's a strong wind, you got to release your parachute.
Yeah.
Get all this stuff out. But, you train on it enough to where you're prepared, you're ready to go when the time comes.
But the first time was not that scary.
Actually, I think, honestly, the first jump I ever had, I was so nervous about jumping out of an aircraft that it was probably my best jump as far as my technical form coming out of an aircraft of any of them. Because I was concentrating on making sure my legs were right, my feet were right, and
Counting the numbers. And
everything was perfect. And after that, you're like, like most 20-something-year-olds, you're like, I got it figured out now.
I got this.
Yeah. And so it was kind of for me, looking back on it now, you wish you would have paid more attention to some of the technical aspects continuing, because it probably could have saved my body some abuse later.
How do you know you're not going to land on something? There's not much correction for that.
Yeah, no. And there was several. I've been dropped in a tree, which hurts. We had guys that would land and they would, land on vehicles. Like there would be Humvees.
Yeah.
Medical Humvees and some of the senior command Humvees that would be laying around. I've seen plenty of guys hit those. I mean, when you're coming down one way or the other. And with the Army parachutes they had at the time, I think they've got a little bit better now, but this was back in the late 90s when I was jumping. They had the T-10 Charlie was the name of the parachute, and you could pull a riser and pull it down, and you might be able to control a little bit of drift. But no, you're coming down either way, and if something's in your way, you just be prepared to hit something. So, but, when I tell people now, I was a paratrooper, they're like, yeah, all right. I was in much better shape then, I promise.
Did they give you medals for so many jumps or?
I mean, all right. So you do get awarded based off of the jumps. You can become a senior parachutist and things like that. And then eventually you can be a master parachutist, which is those are like the jump masters, the one that do the inspections and get everybody ready. So, but you have to have a certain number of jumps before you can ever get to that. Sometime with the officers, when I was in the airborne unit, I was transferred out of the airborne unit before I had a chance to even go to like a jump master school. They just move you around.
Yeah.
And I ended up in California at one point, in Monterey, California, which was a rough duty station. Like my office overlooked the Gulf of the Bay of Monterey there, and it was just really tough. It was very nice weather year round.
That a lot of people attribute the parachuters for not winning World War II, but a big part of it because were able to drop them behind the lines, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I would argue that, but for paratroopers, the Army doesn't win in Bastogne. You don't hold Bastogne in Belgium, and it was the paratroopers that held that. And you had that famous quote from the commander when the German surrender was announced, and they said, you need to surrender, and the American response was nuts. Like that's the mentality of the paratrooper. And then, there's a saying in the paratroopers that say all the time, you guys better be prepared. You're about to be surrounded. And we're paratroopers. We're supposed to be surrounded. But I do think the paratroopers played a very pivotal role on D-Day. They obviously played a large role in Operation Market Garden in Holland, and then in Bastogne. But for those things, without the paratroopers, things don't go the same. That's for sure.
No, it's all calculated by people that know all the stuff on the board, don't they?
Absolutely. Well, and I think that's where you get some of the credit to some of the leadership to be able to have the vision to see you're taking a humongous force when in World War II, when we invade Europe, a huge force from amphibious assault to the airborne, and they were able to coordinate all that together. The amount of coordination is almost unfathomable because how do you get all of the sea landing crafts, the airborne units with the weather? Because airborne, you can't jump an airborne operation if the winds are too high. You can't do it if there has to be certain criteria that are all falling in place. They did that, and they were able to do it to a
So they had to coordinate that with the time they're doing these other things.
with the ships leaving, right? With the amphibians. So and the original day for the invasion of Europe was not on June the 6th. It was going to be before that, but there was high winds on the drop zone. So they canceled the jump. So everything that happened in the Navy with all the Army assaults and the amphibious assaults, they had to put them on a 24-hour stand down. They had to keep doing this until they had it right. And it was, when you talk about the amount of coordination that takes, it's phenomenal. And then when you add in the aspect that the paratroopers were all misdropped, they were all over the place. Different units were fighting with different units, but yet they all managed to figure out how to assist the amphibious assault so that they can get a beachhead formed in Europe. I think that's a testament to the paratroopers and the mentality of the paratroopers to be able to do all these things that most people would just hit the panic button.
They're sort of the gunslingers of the West,
I would say that's probably
sense?
pretty accurate.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that's too far off.
Yeah.
The gunslingers of the West,
Yeah.
that's a good way to put it. Those are the crazy guys you send in that you're like, yep.
In case, you ever seen those things, in case of emergency, break glass, and they'll have somebody said, didn't they used to have
yes.
that for
In case of emergency.
Didn't they used to have that for the guy that Trump picked for his first head of the military?
Yeah, Secretary Mattis.
Yeah, they said break glass in case, and that didn't last that long, did it? But still.
Yeah, Mad Maddox.
Mad Dog Max.
Mad Dog Maddox, yeah. He would always say, he said, yep, always have a plan to shake everybody's hand, be nice, and then to destroy anybody.
Which movie would you say is the most accurate for World War II?
Well, from a paratrooper aspect, it would have to be the Band of Brothers series that HBO did. Um, I've heard from quite a few. You know, I'm a life member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars. I'm actually a member of the post here in Cleveland, right down the road from where
Yeah.
we're at. And I would say from most of the stuff that I've heard from veterans, including a great uncle who landed on Utah Beach, that Saving Private Ryan is pretty close as far as the accuracy of the brutality of war. You know, so I think for World War II, I'd say Saving Private Ryan. But as far as the series goes, Band of Brothers to me is hard to beat. I'm a fan of that one.
Yeah, that was a good movie, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was one of Matt Damon's first big movies too.
Yep, and it was Tom Hanks, which so Saving Private Ryan is one of the movies that inspired Tom Hanks to do the Band of Brothers series on HBO.
Oh, so he did that.
Yep, he was
yeah.
the executive producer
Oh.
for that. Yep, and then they ended up doing the Pacific, which was another one which kind of centered on a couple of Marine units, mostly Chesty Puller and his units, and then like Gunnery Sergeant Basilone won the Medal of Honor in the Philippines. So you have the Atlantic Theater and the Pacific Theater, and so they kind of did both of those. It's pretty good. I think maybe 2 years ago they did another series called Masters of the Air, which is about the bombers in World War II. So many aspects in World War II that I think people.
What about Patton?
George?
Yeah.
Oh, George.
The
with
movie Patton.
Yeah, with the pearl handles.
Yeah, pearl handles.
I think that's pretty. That's actually a pretty good movie. I hadn't seen it in a while, but I will say this: I do think that they did a accurate portrayal of George Patton and his demeanor and the way he handled folks. You know, he was a guy that he did not have any time for people who are not going to get their job done.
Right.
Like he was very, to the point. But I do think that's was a pretty good movie, pretty well done, and based off of his autobiography, pretty accurate. He's still buried over there with the folks he served with.
Now, he was the one that believed in reincarnation, right?
Yeah,
he
had some interesting theological views, to say the least.
But he really believed it, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he did. And some of the stuff I've read about him, I don't really understand how he got to those theological positions because he certainly wasn't raised that way.
What was he raised?
Yeah. So most of the stuff I've read, he was kind of raised. Well, he had a period where he was just, I don't want to say an atheist, but he was just non-practicing anything, right? But he never really came out and said, I'm an atheist, I don't believe in. But he definitely had a view of Unitarianism, the world is one, spirituality, and I think he might actually fit. They didn't have it back then, but I think he might buy off on more of Scientology now than.
But Scientology is not really a religion, right?
Well, that's what they say.
It doesn't offer a plan of salvation, right?
Well, there's a lot of religions that don't offer a plan of salvation. And you can look at like a Hindu,
Buddhism.
Buddhism. I think most of the world would consider those to be a religion of sorts, but there's no plan of salvation.
Yeah.
If the plan of salvation is, you're going to come back as something else, that's not a plan of salvation. That's a plan of regeneration, which is a totally different ballgame. But, theology is something, I love theology in itself. I've got a master's in theology. I deal with it, out of all the things that I've studied, obviously the most beneficial, even going through law school, the most beneficial thing I've ever studied has been the Bible. And I'll tell you this, I think that, we as a society, speaking more specifically in the United States, Sometimes we let our theological differences dictate division where our doctrinal differences are not that far apart. So I think there's a difference between Christian doctrine and Christian theology. We can agree on some things are different, theologically wise, but we all got to agree on the doctrine in Christianity, and that is Jesus was the Son of God. He came to die for all man's sins. He is the propitiation for all man's sins, and but for Jesus, we can't have a route into salvation. That's a doctrinal statement. Whereas, if you get to some of these other, like, Buddhism, Muslim, Hindu, none of those three will hold that tenement as being a doctrinal statement, but they're a religious statement to them. So I think from that aspect, I think that, we have especially down here in, Tennessee, we have, we're in the Bible Belt, right?
Yeah.
So everybody here has heard about Jesus. And, been all over the world. And it's amazing to me how many people have not. So went on a mission trip with our church. I go to Meadowview Baptist Church. Love the church, love the pastor, Jeff Duncan. He's a phenomenal pastor. He does very good at, teaching Scripture exegetically. We'll go through one book of the Bible at a time. And it's, sometimes you get to those hard verses and we just deal with them, right? So we went to a mission trip to England, which sounds crazy that we're having to take a mission trip to England to talk about Jesus. But I was astounded at the amount of people there who really have never heard of Jesus. And you think about England, this is a country where we had so many, religious revolts.
First world country, basically.
Yeah, and you would have, we have the Catholic, Catholicism, then we have the revolt, and we're Protestant, we have the Church of England. You have all these things that historically looking back on had a significant impact on world religion, but yet now there's so many young kids over there that don't know who Jesus is. They don't have a clue if you were to say who Jesus is. If you walk around here in Cleveland and say, do you know Jesus?
99%.
99% will say, yeah, I know who Jesus is.
Probably everybody.
Yeah, you may be hard-pressed to find anybody in Cleveland that doesn't know who Jesus is. So to me, it's almost kind of like an unfathomable. How are there people in a first world country who have no idea who Jesus is?
Just a new era, man. It's just the way. It's just a new era.
I'd say so.
All happened in 50 years.
Yeah. Well, what was it? Ronald Reagan that said, you're only 2 generations away from.
What was that quote? Not extinction. It was
2 generations away from, I wish I could remember.
It wasn't anonymity, was it?
Yeah, it may have been. It may have been, but that's, Ronald Reagan, like it really is true. And if you go back and read the Old Testament, it's pretty clear to see. Like you would have, everybody's good, we're doing well.
Then years and years, and it'd say, for so many years.
Yeah, years.
Then they can't,
They rebel.
Yeah.
And so then, if you look at, when God brings the people of Israel out of Egypt, imagine seeing a fire by night and smoke by day and following it, parting the Red Sea, destroying the Egyptian army that was chasing you. And within 3 years, we've totally forgot God.
Right. Well, wild, isn't it?
It is wild. And so 40 years they walk in the wilderness, and then you're in the desert, and I don't know. Have you ever spent any time in the desert at all?
Yeah, Tucson, Arizona.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you're going to burn up during the day, and you're going to freeze at night.
Yep.
Right, and
you have a fire at night.
Yeah.
in your fireplace.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because you're going to freeze.
Yeah.
So when I was in the Army, we went to Fort Irwin, California, which is in the Mojave Desert. And during the day, you're like, man, I just want to be cooled off.
Yeah.
And then at nighttime, you're trying to, get behind a tank or a Bradley so
Yeah.
that the exhaust will warm you up.
Right.
Imagine being in the desert and you have no food.
Yeah, they were in the desert.
Yeah, and there's nothing there.
Yeah, we think about them being down here at Walmart. They were in the desert.
No, they were in the desert.
Yeah.
There's no food source. There's nothing. They get manna from heaven. So God's providing food for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then what do? We complain.
Mm-hmm.
I need some variety, and I understand wanting variety. That's why I like going to the Chinese buffet.
Yeah.
I get, whatever, whatever
Yeah.
you want. Now, I'll say this. If you have, God providing you food and you're complaining, the question would be not where's God at, but where's your heart at that time? And that's a tough one. But yet we do that all the time, don't we?
We do it all the time. I'll do it this evening.
Yeah, I guarantee it. I do it all the time, and it's terrible because we're so blessed. We're so blessed, and yet there's a constant complaining. We want more. We want this, and so. But you look at the Old Testament, and they constantly, the Lord gives them the land, and they rebel. Then the Lord gives them, the occupation, they rebel. The Lord gives them the domination, they rebel. And it just continues on. It's just like, man, it kind of gives some weight to total depravity. We cannot do it. We're just a depraved people, sinful people.
Were you always from Cleveland?
No.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, let me tell you. All right, so I was born in the booming metropolis of a place called Pell City, Alabama.
Whereabouts is that?
So I'd say it's probably like 45 minutes east of Birmingham. So go outside Birmingham like you're going to Atlanta. Imagine your car breaks down in the middle of nowhere. You're in Pell City.
Oh,
That's
Lord.
about where it's at.
Anybody famous from Pell City
Um,
besides you?
well, other than my mom, I don't. I don't know anyone from Pell City that's famous. There was one of the boys that was on the movie Ricky Bobby. Talladega Nights was from Pell City. Other than that, I don't think so. I don't think so. But no, my mom and dad, they met at Samford University there in Birmingham and got married. And my dad was called to the ministry, and he spent 20 plus years as a Navy chaplain. So I grew up all over the world. I grew up in, our first duty station I can really remember was in Virginia Beach. He was at Station Norfolk. We lived in Virginia Beach. Then we got orders to Hawaii. So we lived in Pearl Harbor for 3 years. Orders to Orlando, lived down there for 3 years. Then we got orders to Okinawa. And I remember my mom and dad, when they said dad had to go to Okinawa. Mom and dad sat me and I have a twin brother, smarter and better looking than me. But we have a twin brother. He said, we were talking, they said, well, your dad can either go for 1 year unaccompanied or 3 years if we all go with him.
Uh-huh.
And so me and my brother, I remember we were like, well, all right, Dad, well, we'll see you in a year. Yeah, have a good time, Pop, And so anyway, there we were in Okinawa, Japan, and that's where we graduated high school. Loved it.
Were you like one of the few American students?
No, we had so many. All right, so Okinawa had I think 5 Marine Corps bases.
Oh.
And one really large Air Force base. So we had one high school. It's called Kupasaki High School. That's where I graduated from. And it was pretty much all Marine Corps and Navy kids. And then you had the Air Force base, which was, God bless you. It was all the Air Force kids. And so like our football teams, that's who we played. We played some of the local universities and sports and whatnot. But I don't know, we have thousands of kids.
So there's a lot of Americans there too. It wasn't like
Tons.
it wasn't like you was even in Japan, I guess.
Yeah, no, not when you're on base, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And what's funny is it messed me up when I got to college because I learned how to speak Spanish. You know, in high school, you had to speak Spanish. You had to have a foreign language.
Yeah.
And so I learned how to speak Spanish from a Japanese lady whose second language was English.
So she had an accent, a crazy accent.
So it'd be like, normally you would say, ¿cómo está? But when I came back and tried to speak it in Florida, I'd say, ¿cómo está? And they had no idea what I was talking about. They thought I was all nutty. They're probably not wrong, but it was pretty interesting. But I did have a good time. And being back in Pearl Harbor was actually, it was pretty neat for us because my grandmother, who is still alive today, was actually at Pearl Harbor when it was bombed. My great grandfather was a pilot during World War II, who was at Pearl Harbor when it was bombed. So, my grandparents came over to see us. And she would go back around and talk about the places she remembered when she was a kid.
Well, you've had a lot of connections to there.
Yeah.
Ironically, coincidentally.
It's pretty wild, isn't it?
It is wild.
Yeah, but I tell you, just being in Pearl Harbor, knowing that my great grandfather and my grandmother were there when it was bombed.
Yeah.
And she's actually, she actually goes to speak to a lot of like high schools and stuff and talks about her experience there on December the 7th. It's pretty wild. But Hawaii, that's a tough place to live,
tough.
We had to learn how to surf.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. And then we went to Orlando, Florida, and we had to have the Disney passes and all that stuff.
Well, how you like Cleveland, Tennessee, where the weather changes before you get out to your car?
I love Cleveland. I love Bradley County. Let me tell you what's interesting about it. That your guess is as good as the weatherman's guess around here.
Yeah.
The other day, we were all full up on milk and bread.
Yeah.
For a snowpocalypse that's coming.
Yeah.
And we got barely a dusting.
That's common.
Yeah.
Around here.
I see.
Yeah.
But I fell in love with a girl from Tennessee. My wife, she actually she was born in Tulsa, but she spent her whole life here in Tennessee. Her dad owns Ace Exterminating. He's retired now, but they lived in Ottawa, Georgetown area. Mm-hmm. And so when we decided that we were going to live in Tennessee, we looked around at the different areas, and we actually chose to live in Bradley County because of the school system here is phenomenal. The people here are phenomenal. Like Cleveland, you don't realize it's like the 12th largest city in the state, but yet it's a small town.
Yeah, so far, right?
Yeah, it has the small town vibe, but it has everything you need. So it's kind of what I would consider to be kind of an anomaly, really. It's got everything a big city has, yet it's a small town vibe.
There's nothing a big city has that we don't have in Tennessee.
Right. Except
maybe a
Red Lobster, I think.
Red Lobster, yeah. Well, that's been a joke ever since I was a kid.
Yep. Well, somebody was talking about the Red Lobster coming again. I said, at this point, they might as well not. We've got a couple other spots that'll work.
I don't know why they pick on the Red Lobster.
Yeah,
why them?
I don't know. I do like their biscuits, but I can buy those from the.
They're about the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
Isn't Old Charlie's about the same as that?
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that.
Yeah,
it's about the same. So but growing up in beach towns, I'm somewhat partial to seafood. But we've got enough seafood places here already anyway.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, we got a lot of. If you go to some of those Chinese buffets, they'll have spaghetti.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah,
they've got it all.
Isn't that something?
How can they make everything?
I don't know. And how can they make it so good that you come back every time too?
It's sort of, and it all looks so appealing the way they lay it out and all the colorful. You eat the Jello,
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if you can tell this from my physique, but I love a good buffet.
What years you come to Cleveland?
So we've been in Cleveland about 10 years now. And we originally bought, we lived in Lenox Hills, up across from Westwood, and lived up there for 4 or 5 years or so. And then we bought some land up on Frontage Road, 5 acres, built us a house up there, and, love it. So we're about, 2 miles north of Target if you head up Frontage Road. And if you go up there right now, you'll know my house because we got fenced with Jeremy Richards for commissioner signs all over. You'll know my house, but please don't egg it. But we love it up there because we're in the county, but we're close enough to get to anything we want to get to super quick.
Does your property go all the way back to the interstate?
It doesn't. We go back to almost where there's a gas line.
Yeah.
That runs down, and the people who own behind us is Tony Spencer. He's the pastor down at the Journey Church. And they bought a ton. All right, so I think there's just like maybe 28 acres or so. There's a road that goes in between our property and the neighbors, and you go back and they have all that by the interstate. Mm-hmm. So
I like living by the interstate. To me, it's peaceful for some reason.
Yeah, sometimes when you open the window at night and you just hear the car, the only thing that ever gets you rattled is when you hear that old Jake brake. And sometimes I'll sit up thinking, I'm like, somebody got a machine gun.
Yeah,
but I like it. It actually is very nice and very peaceful over there.
You've got the double fence, right?
That's right.
Isn't that more expensive? A lot more expensive?
Yeah, and we find it more expensive since every year, at least one time a year, somebody runs into it.
It's that curve there.
I guess. It just maybe
it's like that curve's not supposed to be there. So.
I guess we every year, and I was sitting on the back porch with a friend of mine, Mike Reed. Works over at Southeast Bank. We were sitting on the back porch one night, hanging out, talking, and my wife came out there and says, I think somebody just hit our fence. I just heard some loud noise. I was like, no, I think that was interstate. Sure enough, walk out there, and some lady had run into the fence, and the third time has happened where they just run into our fence there, and for some reason, they always seem to like to take out the fire hydrant. I'm pretty sure Bradley County has replaced 4 fire hydrants since we've owned that property.
I know Michael Reed. Isn't he Joe Reed's son?
Mm-hmm. Yep, from Reed and Roach.
Yeah, Reed and Roach. That's right.
So every year, just about every year. Yeah, COVID was a caveat, but every year we take a trip with the Duncans, the pastor, Jeff Duncan, the pastor of Meadowview, his wife, Abby Duncan, which she works over at Hopewell, Mike Reed, Danielle Reed, who works over at Oak Grove, and Kelly April Kidd. We've got our little group. We go on at least a cruise or a trip every year. And last year we went to Europe on a Mediterranean cruise. I don't know. Have you ever been to Rome?
No.
Well, I recommend it. And if you get some of that real Italian food, I don't know. They may not get you on the plane. They were having to force me back on the plane because that food over there, that Italian food is delicious. It's a whole different ball game. Nothing wrong with Olive Garden, but I'm just telling you that stuff is pretty good over there.
Yeah. So, what do y'all go to the same church or something? Mm-hmm. Is that the connection?
Yeah, yes, we all go to the same church and have for years. But my wife has known Danielle Reed and Abby Duncan for years before I even knew. So they were already, but we go there together, and Jeff is he's a phenomenal pastor who just speaks the gospel, speaks the truth, and is unapologetic with it. And I love it because in today's climate, it seems like there's so much compromise on scripture, but he doesn't play those games. So I love it.
So there's no thoughts of Cleveland's this Bradley County's a stop-off point for you. You're here.
No, we're
This
here.
is it.
Yeah, we're here. And it's been one of those things where, I've lived all over the world, and I've told I don't know how many people this. I've lived in multiple countries. I've lived in multiple states. I've never been happier with a place than I am living here. I love this area.
Now, what is it?
I don't know that you can actually, properly articulate what it is about the community that's so great. It's obviously the people, great people here.
Is it your house is better or?
Nah, I mean, my house is nice and we love our structure, but we know that, our structure is all temporary, everywhere. And I think I have a pretty good understanding of that because every 3 years of my life growing up was a different house. But we love the area. There's nothing that Cleveland doesn't offer that you can get at a big city. Like, we've got whatever you want here, but we also have that small town feel where you can walk into a store and you say, old so-and-so, that's so-and-so's boy.
Yeah, right.
And it's one of those, and I was telling somebody the other day, and my future son-in-law who's getting married next month.
Next month.
Next month, yep. So we've got 2 daughters. They both got engaged within a couple months of each other. And then they were wanting to get married. And so our only rule was, mine and my wife's, was like, all right, listen, you guys are going to have to give us 6 months in between weddings.
Yeah.
Because we don't need that in our lives, right? And so they were all nice enough to do it 6 months to the day. So our oldest daughter got married October the 16th this past year, and our next oldest is getting married April the 16th, next month.
Yeah.
6 months to the day. Like, they didn't waste any time.
Were they so they were, how old are they? In their 20s?
Yeah, so you have 23 and 21, and
So they were 13 and 14 when you moved to Cleveland.
both of them went to a COE all the way, graduated from Walker Valley.
Are they marrying people from Cleveland?
Yeah, well, so our oldest married Gabe Katz, who loved this kid. He's from Knoxville originally, but he played soccer at Tennessee Westland. And he and my daughter met, and they started dating. Next thing you know, he's just like us. He's like, we love Cleveland.
Right.
And he actually just started a couple months ago working down at the Register of Deeds office.
Oh, here in Cleveland?
Yeah, here in Cleveland. So he's
Wasn't
doing
that
that.
ironic?
Yep.
Missy Matthews.
Yeah, Missy Matthews and Stacia
Cry.
Shahan,
Yeah, Shahan.
and somebody else.
Mark Hall.
Mark Hall.
Yeah.
Yep. That's going on right now.
Yeah.
But so the other kids, he is a Cleveland guy. You'll probably know some of the folks that he's related to for sure. But his name's Tucker Ownby. That's going to be my future son-in-law. And his dad, Chad Ownby, he works at the sheriff's department here, a K-9 officer.
He from Charleston?
That's right.
Isn't that funny how, I don't know him personally, but he's from Charleston.
Again.
And he's from Charleston. Because he's...
I may not know everybody, but I know everybody.
Isn't that so funny? What are the odds of that?
But that's why I say, he went to Charleston. Yeah, and before Walker Valley was a thing.
Yeah, right.
And now his son Tucker, my future son-in-law, he was a beast at sports up in Walker Valley. He played baseball, he played football. His younger brother now is one of their better players, Brody Ownby. He's phenomenal up at Walker Valley right now. And, they're very well connected, into the community, have lived here their whole life. And I would be pretty confident in saying there's not a chance that he ever leaves this area because
Not
he
with
loves
him,
it.
not with his dad being from Charleston. They just ain't gonna leave.
They're not going to leave.
They're not gonna leave. They
leave.
might think they are.
Yeah. Well, Chad is actually, we were actually praying for him this morning at church. He had open heart surgery Friday.
Golly.
Yeah, he's in his 40s, but he had something wrong with his valve in his heart, and he had open heart surgery. But from all accounts, he's doing well right now.
Those things are just routine now, aren't they?
That it seems to
I
be.
mean, they're just really routine.
Within 24 hours of him having open heart surgery, he's out of the ICU in a regular room. So it seems to be he's doing well. But yeah, we've been praying for Chad and his wife Christy. That's a pretty scary thing when you have to have open heart surgery.
I can say it's easy, but it ain't me.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. When it ain't you, it's
a big deal.
Yeah, but
One of those things. It depends on if you're pitching or catching.
Yeah, I suspect so. That's a fact. That's a fact. Yeah, I remember my mother had open heart surgery a couple years ago, and the night after she had her surgery, Dad was not allowed to stay with her in the ICU. The same thing with Christy, with Chad. After a certain time, you all have to leave. You can't stay here all night. And I talked to my dad on the phone that night, and I actually took a screenshot of it while we were on the phone. I spent an hour and a half on the phone with my dad because, my mom's in the hospital. Like, that's his other half. He doesn't know what to do. And so we spent all night talking, and I was just like, I don't think that I've ever had a conversation longer than 10 minutes on the phone with my dad up until that point. He just wanted some company. He didn't know what to do without mama, and so, that's a pretty nerve-wracking thing. Yeah. And so I was glad to hear that he got stepped down to a room where he can recover, get better, if you will.
Is you're running for public office too, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever had any dealings with public office?
I've never held a public office before. I've definitely had plenty of dealings with them. When I was a police officer, and this was when I lived in Alabama. I was a lieutenant at the police department. This was in Lincoln, Alabama. Now, if you know where the Talladega racetrack is, then you know where Lincoln is because the Talladega racetrack is in Lincoln, Alabama.
So that's where you're a policeman.
That's where I was a police officer there for a little over 10 years, and then a couple of years down as a sheriff's deputy down in Florida, just north of Panama City.
How do you go from that to being an attorney?
God, man, I'll tell you one thing you can do is when you're chasing bad guys and you're getting older and they're not, you start thinking, I got to do something different.
Get them with a radio and a pen, right?
Yeah. Well, you know what's interesting. All right. So, and I've told this to several people in my day. When I was working as a detective, I used to take a case to the district attorney's office, and I would say, "All right, we gotta prosecute these guys. Here's all the evidence I have. X, Y, Z, whatever." And sometimes they come back and say, we can't prosecute it. We can't do this. We don't have the evidence or whatever. And I used to get frustrated, and I would say, man, I can do it better than they can. I'm going to go to law school, right? So I ended up going to law school, and I fully intended to go to law school. Did
you already have a degree?
Yeah, I graduated from the University of West Florida. I had my bachelor's was in forensics, forensic science. Yeah. So I did have a degree, and so that kind of made it easier for me to say I'm going to go to law school because I had, some of that basis already, and I'd already been to some classes working towards theology and ministry. So got into law school, and as I got into law school, here's an interesting perspective where I was like, I'm gonna go be a prosecutor. I'm gonna put bad guys in jail. And I had a trial advocacy professor who one day I was walking out of class and he says, Mr. Richards, you don't like me very much, do you? And What he didn't know is I didn't care for him at all. And I'll
Yeah.
tell you why, because he was a defense attorney that I couldn't stand. And one of the guys I went to the police academy with in Anniston, Alabama, he was killed in the line of duty. And my professor was the one who defended him in court. So I was like, yeah, no, I don't care for you at all. And I said, well, and he said, you don't like me very much. And I said, well, I don't know you, sir.
Yeah.
But I appreciate everything you're telling and teaching us and imparting on us. And he said, well, I noticed from your resume you've got a degree in theology and ministry. And I said, yes, sir. And he said, well, I've got a theology question for you. So at that point, I set my briefcase down. I'm like, all right, well, look, you're swimming in my pond now. So he said, I don't want you to answer right now. I want you to answer later. I said, okay. And he said, if Jesus would have been an attorney, do you think Jesus would have been a prosecutor or a defender? And he walks off. And I'm like, man, that's a great question. And so later on at the next class, I told him, I said, I'd have to admit, that Jesus would have probably been a defense attorney, right? He's the one who stood in the gap and said, you without sin cast the first stone. Yeah. And I said, so I'd have to admit he would have probably been a defense attorney. Like he's our defender, he's our intercessor. And he goes, yeah, I arrived at the same conclusion. He said, now let me tell you about my ministry. And I said, okay. He says, as a defense attorney, I get to go love on the unloved. I get to go love on the people that nobody else wants to talk to, that everybody hates, and I get to tell them about Jesus. And I'll buy them a suit, and they'll know that somebody cares for them and somebody loves them. So I was at watching a Christian Legal Society conference years later, and this guy was up there preaching. He was a gnarly looking guy, like had the full arm tats, had the teardrop tattoos, and a dynamic preacher. This guy he was on all cylinders. And I was like, man, I was getting fired up watching him. And he was like, and I was ready to kill myself. I was going to prison for second-degree murder and this, that, and the other. And he says, but there was an attorney that spent time with me and, talked to me, whatever. The guy that led him to Christ was my professor in law school. And now this guy is speaking at the Christian Legal Society conference. I was
thinking you don't like it.
Yeah. I was like, and so for me, at that point is when it kind of came full circle that, sometimes, just as Christ did, you got to love on the unloved because Christ died for everybody.
But then the public defender, that's what you call it, right? A public defender. Because they make less money than a criminal defense lawyer, right?
Oh, I would say so.
I mean, like a 2/3.
Yep, I would say so. And
because you're getting paid by the
state.
The state.
Yep, you work for the state, and typically you're going to be appointed to the case that nobody else would really want.
And you're going to have how many cases?
Oh, I don't even know how many cases I have active right now.
50?
At least.
So not 25.
Oh no, it's not a small. It's not
like
a small case.
75, 100
Yep,
in
probably.
some form.
Yep.
And are all those 75 people worried to death? You know what I'm saying?
I would say 90% of the people that I deal with are at their at a junction in their life where they realize, I may spend time incarcerated. Nobody wants to be in jail. Like, nobody wants to be in jail.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to figure out a way. And unfortunately, sometimes people, who have broken the law have become accustomed to, I'm gonna con my way out of this, or I'm gonna talk my way out of this, or I'm gonna be able to,
like you would in school with the teacher or something.
That's right.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in the legal system, the way that our legal system is set up, you're not going to be able to do that.
You can't talk to them at first place.
That's right, because and all they're going to do with the state's office is they're going to lay out the facts. Here's the facts, and if the facts are really bad, they're really bad. And so sometimes it's difficult to get someone to understand that, look, this is not going to go good for us, but here's the things we can do to mitigate damages. And at the same time, I want you to know that this is not define you, because you can be a great person.
So the district attorney office, if they're coming after them, they pretty well got everything wrote. They're not wasting their time, right?
Yeah, most of the time, if the DA office is feeling pretty confident about a case, they feel that they have the facts. Now, our job, as a public defender is, you oftentimes are, all I'm trying to do is make sure no one's constitutional rights are violated. Everyone has constitutional rights to illegal search, illegal seizure. So we'll look at that case and make sure, did you have a warrant? Are you allowed to do this? Were you allowed to seize this stuff? And make sure, and there's been times before where, we've had cases that have been either thrown out, not adjudicated, because, hey, that could have been a constitutional violation. And so, we want to make sure that, and I think most of us can agree in this country, we would rather a guilty person be free than an innocent person go to prison.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, we don't want innocent people in prison.
The odds of him doing it again are slim.
Yep. I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
You've already eliminated some of that.
That's right. So at that point, it would be catastrophic. And I tell you, the cases that worry me the most and that keep me up the most at night are the ones where I legitimately and honestly feel like these people did not commit this crime.
So you have some of those.
I do.
Some you don't know.
Yep.
But some you know.
Don't. Some you don't. Yeah. Some you don't know. Some you're like, it could be 50-50. But there's been some that I've had that I'm like, I don't think so. And I'm extremely passionate about a vigorous defense on every one of our cases. But those are the ones that will, keep you awake at night to make, to the point where you're like, man, we cannot put this innocent person in prison. And it's tough sometimes because at the end of the day.
And so it all goes to trial?
There's a lot that goes to trial.
I mean, some don't go to trial?
There's a lot that don't go to trial. There's some that, I had one a couple weeks ago that, my guy was adamant. I didn't do this. I'm not pleading anything. He had a plea offer. He's like, I'm not pleading anything. And before we got to trial, the district attorney's office realized that there may be some issues with the case.
Because he's not pleading?
I
guess.
Almost
a bluff, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. The district attorney they have a hard job too.
Yeah.
Because everybody says, I didn't do this, right? But it's the state's burden to prove who did what. So if I have a case where I'm like, well, my guy's saying he didn't do it, you're saying he did do it, well, we can put all our cards on the table, and then you let a jury of their peers decide.
It's almost,
It's tough.
Yeah.
And I've I've had several jury trials where I'll sit there with somebody who's been charged with a crime, and they'll say, how do you think it went? And I was like, I don't have a clue. I said, I feel like we made the arguments we want to make. I feel like they made the arguments they want to make. And I said, now we'll see what the jury thinks.
It's I've had all kinds of judges, district attorneys, public defenders, attorneys sitting right there. And there's not one of them that I thought was not trying to do the best they could do.
Sure.
I felt like in every case.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
Maybe
And-
that's not the same in all towns, or I don't know, but
Well,
I know that's for here.
I will say this, and I've practiced in courts in Alabama and federal court even. I will say that I think we have some of the best of the judiciary, DAs, public defenders, and the local bar of any place I've ever been, as we have around here.
Above all the others, or as equal?
I would say around here it's above all the others.
Isn't that something?
I have never been so happy to be a part of a bar and impressed with the folks that I work with. And we've got some that have been here for quite a long time. That we all look up to as the old guard, the guys who kind of forged the path versus some of the young guys who have been on past the bar a year or two, but they're all phenomenal. And I would say that anybody who is practicing law in and around this county is second to none.
Yeah,
Whether it be on the prosecution, defense, civil, or the judiciary. There's not anybody in the judiciary that I would ever criticize because they are phenomenal.
Have you noticed that white collar crimes seem to go more under the radar than the guy having, half ounce of marijuana on him?
Yeah,
Isn't
I would say this: the smaller, like the possession cases.
Possession,
Yeah.
possession for reason. And
Yeah.
that could mean I gave it to him and he gave me a cigarette.
Yeah.
I don't know, but the guys I know that gotten in trouble for that weren't selling dope. I know that. They might have been technically.
They may have had
Something.
Well, sometimes some of the resale charges, they will based off of weight. Now, there has to be other indicia of sell.
Yeah.
However, sometimes with the weight or, and what they're doing, they may charge them that way. Most of the time, I will say the DA's office, they get it right and they eventually move it down like a simple possession.
Yeah.
But the reason I think there's more of those than some of the white collar crimes you see is because, quite frankly, those are easy to make. And I'll tell you this, as being a police officer,
Yeah.
a former police officer, it was easy to make. I pull a car over, I smell marijuana, I smell some kind of narcotic, I've got probable cause to search, I've got you dead to rights. That's an easy case to make. Off of just a
Somebody's not
traffic
going to
stop.
call you and say, "Hey, I think they took some money out of my. I think they embezzled some money out of my checkbook."
Yeah.
They're not going to call the police for that.
There's a lot that don't, and a lot of times it's because it's either a family member
Yeah.
or someone close to
Or
them.
there's no reason to call the police.
Yeah, we're like, well, you gonna pay me back?
Right.
We'll work it out, and they leave it,
Right.
and that's how it
So
sits.
it's not the system that just prosecutes
No.
petty crime. It's just that there's no police going around arresting people for white. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and there's also so I remember taking a class when I was working my undergrad in forensics, and they were talking about reported crime versus actual crime. Okay, so reported crime versus actual crime. If you take the actual crime, let's just say there's 100 cases of theft, only 30% of those are ever going to be reported. So you got 70% not reported. It happens all the time, and people will talk about it, and they'll say, "Man, this person or that person stole from me. They took from me." But then you have the 30% that are actually reported, and then of those 30%, maybe only 50% of those are actually able to be prosecuted based off of the evidence. So you have 15% of all those white collar crimes that are prosecuted, whereas a possession charge, it's not reported. It doesn't need to be reported because most of the time it comes off of a traffic stop or something like that. That's just proactive policing.
Right.
And we have really good. The Cleveland City Police is very good. Bradley County Sheriff's Office. I love Bradley County Sheriff's Office. They're doing phenomenal. glad to see the sheriff's even running unopposed because he's
Right.
doing a phenomenal job. And,
Nobody's going to run against.
they don't need to because
Right.
he's doing everything he needs to do. I do hope that in part of my running for commission, I do hope that we're able to compensate those guys better.
Steve will like that.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think so. I do hope that,
will love that.
I do hope we can compensate them better because I tell you, we are a very blessed county in, all of the things that we have and our revenue. I just don't think that Bradley County needs to be losing deputies to surrounding counties.
Can they move the money around instead of going over? We all know Gary Davis is not going to raise taxes, and it's probably not going to happen on his watch.
Yeah, I don't think you necessarily need to raise taxes. All right, because I am a Republican, a conservative.
Because when you say we need to give them more money, everybody thinks, oh, he's going to raise our taxes.
No.
You're not.
I'm not a proponent of raising taxes. It's no different than why would we raise taxes if we've got the ability to make this happen by having funding from this here.
You're thinking that's where we need to have our focus. You're not saying we need to spend more money there.
No.
We just need to have our focus there.
Yeah, nothing about me is about if we can do it without having to raise taxes, then we should.
If you say I'm for raising taxes, you'll never win.
Yeah, well, and that's the
Bradley.
thing. Yeah, well, I don't know how most, not to steal a line from the older President Bush, but no new taxes.
Yeah.
Right?
And you can't say that because you're not
and then
in
what'd he
there
do?
to know. Yeah.
And what he do? He raised taxes. Why? Because he didn't know the situation. Now, here's the thing as a commissioner, one commissioner doesn't have the ability to do anything by themselves.
No.
You need 8 others. There's 8,
Yeah.
so you need more to be able to get something done. But I do think there are several aspects, especially when you deal with like the sales tax and things like this, that where you can have money from the availability to raise. Now, you've got obviously we have the fire tax as it is now, but, with the first responders, those people, look, in Bradley County, we should not be losing people to like Ray County or Polk County or anywhere else because they're paying more. That's
absolutely.
crazy.
Well, we don't even need to lose hometown people.
No, we don't.
That's
And
number one. But
that's right. But I do think there are ways to get it done without raising taxes because I am not a fan of raising taxes. I am not a fan of raising taxes.
you're for massaging the budget to get more money to the people.
Yeah, I think
to the areas that need it.
Yeah, I think we have enough revenue as it is. The county's doing fine. The county's doing fine.
County's doing fine.
Yeah, we have the ability to make some adjustments here or there to make sure that all these things are compensated and not like I was talking with Hal Taylor not long ago, and he was talking about having to go up and help his son who works at Walker Valley, put together some stuff from his school, and I'm like,
That's just criminal.
isn't that
It's
crazy?
stupid. It's stupid.
Yeah, we can do better.
Well, that's
we
just
can do
stupid
better.
to even think that we're supposed to do that.
Well, and my grandfather had a quote, and to the point where I've even got it tattooed on my side. This quote.
Yeah.
Now I'll spare you the looking at my belly to see the tattoo, but
Thanks.
It says, "What you really believe you do, all else is just religious talk." But it goes into everything else. If we really say that we value our first responders, we value our kids in our schools, if we really say we believe that, but we're not paying and we're not doing it, we don't really believe that. If you're not doing it, you don't really believe it. And that's where I think that we just need to get refocused on what are our priorities in this county.
Scott Adams said, "What you do is what you are."
Yeah.
That was
Same
a
principle.
little simpler. What you do is what you are,
Same principle.
not what you talk about is what you are.
Yep, and that's the thing. Everybody can talk, and that's the thing about it. What I've learned running for this office, I am absolutely not a politician. I'm not a politician, and I've found that I'm not very good at it because I don't have a lot of signs or whatever. And all these signs, we spend so much money on signs for election stuff. I really believe that if all of the signs across America that we use for political to announce who we are, we could probably solve hunger in America if we spent that money on something more productive than signs with our names on it. That's just ridiculous to me. Now, the other thing is, too, I'm not asking for donations from anybody. Why? Because I don't want anyone to call and say, hey, you owe me a favor.
Yeah, we're not that type, are we?
We just don't need it. We just don't need it. And, and at the end of the day, I've heard, several folks be like, well, if you don't put out more signs, you're not going to win. Well, if that's the case, so be it. But
my dad ran for county commission way back in the 80s, and his motto was, I'm not putting up any signs. And he didn't put up any signs and won.
Yeah.
Beat the guy in the seat that'd been there forever. I'm not sure how he did it, to be honest with you.
Well,
I think he knocked door to door to door to door.
Well, I will say this. Anybody who's reached out to me has got a response. Mm-hmm. And anybody who said, hey, I want to talk to you about something, I've said, let's go have coffee. Let's get lunch. Let's go. We'll discuss it.
Meet me at Gardner's.
Yeah, because
I've got $40. Let's have lunch.
Gardner's, man. I tell you what, man. That hot Italian down there.
Oh yeah. You know what I always get? Peanut butter sandwich.
At Gardner's Market?
Yeah, they'll make me a peanut butter sandwich.
Oh yeah, I haven't had that.
Boy, they're expensive.
The hot Italian I always get, and every time you go in there, it's, hey, it's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. What do you have?
Yeah, that's right. That's it. He's got
he
it up.
runs a business. And
Yep,
if you had to hire anybody to run your business, would it not be him?
It would have to be either him or Larry McDaniel down at the town square. Because I tell you, every time.
Either one.
Look, I'm wearing my.
That's a good point.
I'm wearing my Larry McDaniel shirt today, even.
If we could see Larry right now, he'd be waving at us.
He'd be waving, and he'd say, appreciate you, man. Thank you for coming in. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I was thinking about you yesterday. Did
Yep,
I tell you that?
100%.
Yeah. I was thinking about you yesterday.
Both of my.
It wasn't.
Yeah,
but makes you feel good.
But in my mind, he was.
Yeah, I'm going with it.
Well, my son-in-law and my future son-in-law have all went to Larry to get their wedding stuff there. Yeah, and he is solid gold.
100%.
Yeah,
you're right. Who would be better, Larry or that guy at Gardner's? What's that guy's? I know him. I just can't.
Yep, and his boy works there. His boy, and talks just like him.
I'm going to say the guy at Gardner's wife. She would win.
Yeah, well, there you go.
She would win.
That's pretty good. Yeah, as far as a salesman, I don't know. When I worked at Logan Tom, Jimmy Logan's a pretty good salesman, too.
I love Jimmy Logan.
Jimmy Logan's a pretty good salesman, too.
Jimmy Logan.
Yeah, it was every so often when I was working over there, I'd go in there and get a golden piece of nugget from him, and then I'd leave him alone for a while he'd go.
About what years did you work there?
This would have probably been in maybe 19 to 21, somewhere in there.
It was busy years.
Yeah, we were busy. Yeah, we
was
had
Charlie Snyder there then?
Yeah, yep. Love old Charlie.
Yeah.
Hey, that
he
guy.
lived upstairs then?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Well, nobody knows that, do they?
Yeah, no.
Did you know they've got a door up there? If you go up to the top and go through this, you can go all the way to Sheridan Randolph's office and come down through his office.
I did know that.
Isn't that bizarre?
I did know that. Yeah, because when I was there, it was right when Logan Thompson now has two offices. They got the one with Andrew Johnson, which I know. Matt Coleman and Robert Thompson are at that new one, and they had that other wing that went over top of Title Guarantee.
Yeah,
and it just seemed like it was a big maze of doors that just went all over the place.
If you go down that back step and go through that back door, it's got an address on the door.
Yeah,
and I said, I said, Jimmy, what's that for? And he said, that's where we have stuff sent for LLCs.
Oh,
It had its own address.
I got
That
you.
is funny.
All I know, I remember that back door being the one we used when we wanted to escape without somebody seeing us.
Yeah.
That was the,
Yeah.
that was the quick way to get out.
I renovated all their bathrooms.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and the back kitchen. I mean, the whole 9 yards.
You did a good job on the kitchen.
I've done several renovations over there. So here's what's odd to me. You have a Bradley County, not a city of Cleveland. You have a Bradley County hometown persona. Mm-hmm. So where did you get that? Was it your mother, your daddy? Was it Pale, Alabama?
Yeah, it dang sure wasn't anything from Alabama.
Well, it had to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
That's homegrown.
I would say it's probably my mom, because my dad's more of an introvert.
So?
But he's an introvert with a bunch of really good dad jokes, right?
Yeah.
And in his time in the pulpit, he
had to have fresh ones.
Yeah, you got to have some good stuff. But
what was your mother's history?
All right, so my mom, she actually, when they got married, she was a student there at Sanford, and they got married. She got pregnant with us a few months after they got married, and so she stopped going to school, and she was a preacher's wife. She ended up eventually getting her bachelor's, and then got her master's in education from Michigan State while we were stationed in.
But where was she from?
Okinawa. She was from Pell City.
That's where she was too.
From. No, my dad was from another real big town called Graceville, Florida. I'm sure y'all all been there on vacation, right?
That's got to be in the middle of Florida, right?
No, it's actually about an hour north of Panama City. If you've ever drove down to Panama City and drove down 231, you've passed a sign that said Graceville, Alabama this way.
Oh.
The only thing in Graceville, they had a Vanity Fair factory outlet, and then they had the Baptist University of Florida, which is still there. My granddaddy was a head professor of theology and philosophy there. That's where my dad grew up.
Yeah.
And when my dad retired, he became the dean of students at that same university. My mom at that time ended up becoming she was the head of admissions. But mom, so of course, being in the military, mom she worked in every educational office as far as I can remember, Orlando, then in Okinawa. She was like getting all the young enlisted guys, all right, here's what you got to do to get an education. So she worked in all those educational assets, and mom is pretty well accomplished and successful in her own right. But my mom definitely has the never met a stranger, outgoing personality. I think I got more.
I think maybe that's where it came from.
I would say so.
Pell City.
Yep, probably so.
Yeah.
And Pell City is it's in St. Clair County, Alabama, which, if you look at it now, it's a lake town, but it's gotten bigger, but it's always had that kind of small town vibe, and that's one of the things we love about this place.
It's still southern. It's still Sweet Home Alabama, right?
Yeah, and I did hear the other day that there in Alabama they've got the internet now.
Oh.
So we're happy to hear that.
So what, they didn't have that then?
It's Alabama, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
It's Alabama.
Did you, growing up, when you listened to that song, Creedence Clearwater, Sweet Home Alabama, did you ever think, hey, I'm going to marry a girl that's... No, you were from Alabama. But you hadn't lived there long.
No, I didn't live, we didn't live in Alabama. We lived in when Dad was, all right, so to be a chaplain in the Navy, you had to have an ecclesiastical endorsement. You had to have a Master of Divinity and ecclesiastical endorsement. In order to get a ecclesiastical endorsement from the Southern Baptists, you had to pastor a church for 2 years. So Dad pastored a church in a place called Hollins, Alabama, which is near Sylacauga, Alabama, for a couple of years. those were the first memories I ever had of living in Alabama, and almost all those memories included me getting a spanking for something. I know when Dad pastored the church, we lived in the pastorium next door.
Yeah.
And I remember one time I told my mom I had to go to the bathroom, and I ran across the yard and went into my room and got my leather jacket and come walking down the middle of the aisle with my leather jacket during church. And I remember.
Why'd you do that?
I don't know.
What was the point?
Yeah, I'm sure there was. It just probably wasn't a good one.
Yeah.
And I remember too, everybody in the church laughing at me. You know, we had the Fifth Sunday played at church. You put some money in the offering, and they'll play whatever hymn you want to play.
Right.
And so I walked up there and put my money in. You know, I was probably 5 at the time, 5 or 6. And they said, "Well, what would you like to hear?" I said, "I'd like to hear Elvira." And they all laughed at me, and I was like, "Are we doing this or not?"
Right.
You know, and they were like, "Yeah, all right, next song." So, but yeah, the Statler Brothers and the Oak Ridge Boys were my
Oak Ridge
yeah,
Boys.
those were my dad's favorites.
Dig a little deeper in the well.
Yeah, that's good stuff right there. Yeah, my dad. That was his. That was the tunes we listened to in his pickup truck back in the day.
That was big during those days.
Yeah, well, I'll go ahead and tell you, in Holland's Baptist Church, they will not be singing Elvira. I can tell you
No,
that.
huh?
Whenever you read a story in the newspaper or see something on television about somebody getting arrested, you naturally assume they're guilty. Unless the story's about you or someone you love, then you'll think differently. And you'll want a lawyer who will defend you. My name's Scott Canavis. If you or someone you love has been charged with a crime, call me. I'll return your phone calls, I'll work on your case, and I will defend you.
Well, I don't know, with you being so busy, what is the point of running for county commissioner? Because it pays, what, $600 a month or something?
Yeah,
Something like that?
I don't even know what it pays anymore. My thing was, yeah, I'm just so sick of politicians. I'll be honest with you. I'm sick of the people that just want to say the right thing and just want to tell you whatever you want to hear just to get elected, and then they do whatever's in the best interest of them or whoever is paying for them. Mm-hmm. I was just like, well, I'm going to give everybody else another chance. I don't have an agenda. I don't have here's my ultimate motivation. But I do feel like I have a lot to offer the district too. I've litigated contract cases. I've litigated property cases. Like, I know those laws. I know what's important, what's not important. I've litigated cases in federal court dealing with taxes. Like, I know those things that we would need to deal with moving into the next phase of Bradley County development. What I want to make sure is that, to your point, Dee, we keep Bradley County. I don't want it to be Chattanooga 2.0. We want our community to be the same community it always has been. And the same community that we fell in love with, that we're like, no, this is where we want to raise our family in. And whereas I realize, a lot of folks who, were born here and they've grown up here, I hope they realize what a community they have, because I don't know that a lot of them do. They may not have known.
Everybody's used to that phrase, "I'm for progress," and I just hate to hear that word. What does that mean?
Well,
what does that mean?
Well, and here's my issue with progress. Progress to what end and to what degree? Because somebody else is going to get rich, or is it really benefiting the community?
Well, why not just, what's wrong with the way it is?
Yep.
What's wrong? We need a pothole fix it.
Yep.
Need a new school building, build a new school building.
Yep. I
don't know what progress means.
Yeah, well.
Is it the race to 300,000? We've won?
Yeah, well, if progress means sacrificing the community that we have for the benefit of somebody's pocket, I'm not for it.
That's not progress. That's just a stutter step or something.
That's right. That is not what I consider to be progress. Progress would be improving school systems that we already have. Improving some of the infrastructure that we already have.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to expand into all these other things just to say that, yeah, we made it. No, we're good where we're at.
Let's just fortify what we got. I guess would be a good word for it.
Yeah, so when you say, what does progress mean to you? Progress means to me improving what we have without losing what we have. We don't need to move into some of these astronomical, numbers that say, well, we finally accomplished it. We've become, this city or whatever. No, we're our own city. We're our own community.
How about a campaign slogan like this? Let us continue.
That's pretty good. One of the campaign slogans I came up with, my wife said I couldn't use was, she said, you can't vote for Pedro, so vote for me.
And you don't think you can use that one?
Yeah, she said no. She said half the people in the city haven't watched Napoleon Dynamite. And I was like, all right, well, that's fair.
Your wife is a shining beacon in a troubled world. She just seems very.
I tell you.
You know what I'm saying?
No, I tell you, Dee. I've told several people.
You know what I'm saying.
My wife is by far the favorite part about myself.
Uh-huh.
And she is, way out of my league. And people ask, how'd you get her to marry you? Mm-hmm. And I was like, here's what you got to do. You got to find a lady who don't believe in divorce.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that helps.
Yeah, and you medicate her until you're married. And then at that point we're stuck.
Yeah, then you're stuck.
No, my wife is she's a saint, and I think the three greatest women I know in my life are my mom, my wife, and my mother-in-law. Mm-hmm. Those three are all saints, and they're what encapsulate the best of humans.
Now, she's from here, or Ottawa, Georgia.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, she lived her whole life in Tennessee. She was born in Tulsa, but when she was like 1 or 2, she came to Tennessee, so she doesn't know anything different.
I wonder what part of Georgetown she's from, Harrison or?
Yeah, I think so.
Harrison.
Yeah, Harrison. Moon Shadows subdivision. They lived over there for a while. Yeah, and her folks still live over there, and we typically go over there every Saturday night, just so they can feed us, because sometimes kids never stop becoming kids, And he always has a grill going. So
I was watching the Clampetts this morning, and what was her name? What was the Granny Clampett said? Have you seen that walking stomach around here anywhere? Talking about Jethro. He called him a walking stomach.
Yeah, that's right. Well,
that show was so funny, wasn't it?
Yeah, whatever happened to good old shows like that? Now everything's on Netflix, isn't it?
Yeah, you have to subscribe and wait and schedule it and all, and I'm just not into that. I've been watching this Nancy Guthrie thing. I've been staying glued to the TV on it. Man. No news today, I don't think.
No, it wasn't anything today. Isn't that crazy? So what are your thoughts on everything?
My thoughts are that the guy at the ring camera has a prosthetic leg from the knee down.
Okay.
I can tell by the way he walks, the way he shifts his weight before he moves. When he walks up to the stairs, he lets that leg droop a little bit. Mm-hmm. When he bends over, he puts his leg out. It's obvious to me. But I've called everybody. I can't get anybody to listen. I just give up.
Well, you're probably not too far off. I've actually thought the same thing. I'm just kind of curious as to how it's all in play. And how in the world have we not got more answers by now?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a mystery, and I like just the guys that get out there and say, "Well, we're out here in the road and we're looking at." They don't know any more than me and you know, but it's still, unfortunately, it's still entertainment to us, isn't it? We want to hear, we want to see, we feel like we're being there.
It is.
That's the new norm.
Yep. Well, I think I would probably equate this back to probably like the O.J. Simpson.
That's about when it started.
When it kind of kicked off, and everyone, I'm watching this unfold in real time.
Right.
I'm following this, and I can see all this. So
I can have my opinion.
Yep, and that's kind of when it started, and it kind of kept going. And every few years, you'd have another. I remember another one. What was
Johnny
it?
Depp.
Johnny Depp. The Amber Heard trial.
When I watched that every night.
Yep.
But Murdaugh.
Yep, the Murdaugh trial.
That was,
yep, and you can go back probably,
Why they pick stuff out like that?
15, 20 years ago, Lacey Peterson and Scott Peterson in California.
That was like right after O.J. Simpson.
Yep, that's what I say. Every year or two, there seems to be some big case that for some reason just captures the nation's attention.
It almost makes you wonder if it's by design.
Yep, you wonder because it seems like it's constant every year or two. There's something.
Now you're running for Bradley County Commissioner.
Yep.
District 2. District 2. What seat does that matter to people?
It does. It's seat B, which is Tom Cry's position, which he's decided not to run. And Tom Cry, he's a legend in his own right. A retired major in the military. He's done
it all, man.
Yeah, he really has.
He really has.
And so I'm running for his seat. It's an open seat. Louis Alford and Caleb Luzatter are running for seat A, as it is right now. But yeah, Tom. I think Tom. I know he's wanted to take care of his wife, and he's done. Made several choices, noble choices, I'll say. Mm-hmm. But that was when I was like, well, I wouldn't run against him because I think, there was no reason to.
Yeah, and he'd be hard to run. But now is the time, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, and that seems to be the consensus. It was like, well, I'll run and I'll offer my service, and I understand full well that I'm not going to win the sign war. I don't have any multi-million dollars backing me. I don't have anybody paying for my signs. I paid for my signs out of my birthday money from my parents. That's just that's kind of my thing, and I'm like. I'm just tired of the same old politics. I'm just tired of the same old, these people are connected to these people, and these people are going to do what these people want.
Have you ever heard those saying the Titanic was built by engineers and an amateur built the Ark?
I have heard that. Yeah, one floated for 40 days and one didn't.
That's what you're saying. Let me. I'm gonna try this. This is getting ridiculous.
Yeah, I've actually caught a lot of flack because I've said repeatedly that running for commissioner of District 2, I represent the people of District 2. I really could care less about other interests if it's not in the benefit of District 2. Now, obviously, there's a lot we can do in the county that are benefits to all the districts. There's a lot we can do that, it may not benefit District 2, but it doesn't hurt District 2, in which case, we can move forward with some of that stuff. But if there's a time where it's not benefiting District 2 or it's hurting District 2 or taking away from something from District 2, I'm not going to support it.
So you're strictly for District 2?
Yeah, District 2. If it's not in District 2's best interest, then I'm not voting for it unless it doesn't hurt District 2. But if you tell me, we can take some of the budget we want to do for some projects for District 2, but we can reallocate these for, something that affects downtown Cleveland or whatever else. I'm not voting for that. I could care less where you get the money, but if you want to take money from the folks that I'm representing to benefit somebody else in another district, not going to have my vote.
That's an interesting take.
Not going to have
I've
my
always
vote.
thought that was the way it was, but I've never heard anybody say it blatantly.
I find that it's not the most political thing. And I don't know, maybe my grandfather told me a story when he always told me that, just being honest was the best policy, because I find that sometimes in politics that just doesn't do well. However, I don't want anybody to have any misconception on, where I'm at. But I don't have anyone from District 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. None of them are voting for me.
Right.
The people I want to know, I want District 2 to know that, look, I'm here for you.
And that's why they have districts. That's why you have. That's why you have districts.
That's right.
It's not a new thought.
No, and at the end of the day, again, if we can all work together to get financing for something that benefits my folks in District 2, but benefits all the other districts, I'm good with that. But I'm not going to disparage or take away from my district for the benefit of everybody else when we need stuff here too. A lot of people forget all the time, and I've had lunch with the mayor, city manager, and chief of police up at Charleston, all three phenomenal people.
Boy, isn't that David Lattimore a great guy?
Phenomenal.
Man, great guy.
I'm telling you, that's a guy you could hang out with all the time.
Oh, yeah.
All the time. But, when you look at District 2, Charleston, for some reason, seems to be oftentimes in Bradley County discarded as the redheaded stepchild.
Always has been.
Yep. And so
Mayor Good really worked hard to get, and he helped. But
Yep.
But
at the end of the day, I want to make sure that they're taken care of too, because there's a lot of great people up in Charleston.
they got a new good city manager.
Yep, all of them, all of them, and and I really enjoyed my time getting to hang out with them, and I told them, and I committed to them that if I was elected once a month, at least at a minimum once a month, we would go up and sit down and have a meeting to discuss what are your issues, what are your concerns on the north end of Bradley County.
Maybe that's your what do you call it, slogan, I'm for District 2.
Yeah, I'm for District 2. Well, there's no doubt about that. I've been pretty well criticized by some folks in other districts, and and they're like, "Well, you can't say this," and I was like, "Well, you don't vote for me."
I'm saying it.
I think it's maybe it's it's kind of a like a Trump mentality of, look, I'm for America first.
Yeah.
And whereas on the international stage, you may not like what we're doing, but I'm going to make sure my people are taken care of first.
Well, that's what you're for.
And
That's what I tell them.
That's what a representative is for.
That's what they're for.
And if you're not doing that, my question then becomes: are you doing this for someone else's interest or your own?
Who else can influence you?
Who else can influence you? And that becomes a very dangerous ball game. And so, I'm not going to play those games, and nobody's ever going to call me and say, "Hey, you owe me a favor." No, I would only owe the people of District 2 that would have elected me, and that's it.
So, tell people to vote for you.
Yeah, vote for me. District 2. I know you're out there and you're watching. Vote for me.
He's going to vote.
May 5th.
He's going to vote for the things that benefit District 2.
Yep.
So if you're in District 2, vote for him.
Yep. And that's it. And if you're not in District 2 and you don't like that, talk to your commissioner.
Right. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out.
You wouldn't think.
And if you need something, you're in District 2, call you.
Call me?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I cannot tell you how many people they've sent a message to my campaign page and say, "I'd like to talk to you."
Yeah.
You're not getting somebody who works for my campaign that calls you back.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah. You're not
that's
even
me.
working for your campaign.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I will talk to you. Let's discuss it. If you have an issue and if it's something we can't discuss it and come to an agreement, that's fine. We'll have a coffee and we'll pray about it. But
How many people are in District 2 that vote? Republican primary.
well, there's an interesting. All right, so there's like 12,000 people in District 2, but when you start going back and looking at how many people have voted in the past few primaries, it varies, right? So when it's a presidential election, it's pretty significant turnout.
Yeah.
When there's a sheriff's election, it's a good turnout.
Right.
This time, I wouldn't say unfortunately because I'm glad that Sheriff Lawson's going to be reelected,
right.
but there's no sheriff, there's no president, so I'm hoping it's a great turnout. I don't know.
6,000-7,000 total.
I would say, yeah, maybe that.
I'm gonna guess that.
Maybe that.
Isn't that bizarre?
Yeah, and it just seems to be like, and a lot of folks will say, and me and Rich Kinlan, he's running down the 4th district.
Yeah, well, I like him.
If you don't like Rich, something wrong.
You got
with
a problem.
right?
You got a problem.
Yeah, because Rich is a phenomenal guy.
Yeah.
I've known him a while and love the guy.
Yeah.
But we've talked about the times where we've gone and we've knocked on doors, we've talked to people, and they're like, "I only vote in the presidential election," and the answer is always like, "Well, you don't know him,
Right.
You can call me,
Yeah, right.
Like you can call me
That doesn't
anytime."
make sense, does it?
It doesn't. It doesn't make sense, but that just seems to be the way it goes. The presidential elections always bring out the biggest number for the primary, and if it's not a presidential election, the second biggest number they come out for is the sheriff. Other than that,
If Missy and Stacia wasn't running, there wouldn't be nobody even know there's a race.
yeah, those two right there, they've been going.
It's gonna be a cat fight.
Yeah, it's been head to head. And then I think now that Bradley's out of it for the county mayor, just between Gary and Donut.
Donut, yeah.
Yep, those are the two that are going to be that'll be interesting to see how that shakes out.
Yeah, it'll be.
But I'll say this for anybody that doesn't know, Gary lost his son recently, and
Yeah,
so
terrible.
prayers and support for him. And I know Donut feels the same way. No,
absolutely.
That's a hard one for anybody.
He would
so
absolutely. He wouldn't be.
yep, prayers.
He wouldn't take advantage of that for anything.
No, prayers and support for that family during this difficult time. I reached out to Gary myself and told him, I was like, I'm praying for you all.
Yeah.
That's tough. I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
That's a hard road, man.
Yes, sir. I can't imagine. I hope I never have to know.
Yeah.
Hope I never have to know.
All right, buddy. I appreciate you coming.
Mr. Burris.
D. Call me D.
D.
Vote.
D. Just DeeScussion.
DeeScussion. This DeeScussion.